We got the official alert just yesterday that Greg Poppovich has retired as head coach of the San Antonio Spurs. He's going to stay on with the Spurs in a presidential capacity. So kind of an emeritus position, basically. But he'd been operating under dual roles for a few years now, and now he's transitioning fully into that front office role, which makes sense following his stroke and rehabbing from that and everything. Storied career. I mean, when I was looking up the numbers, it was kind of crazy. His record over his time with San Antonio is 1,422 wins to 869 losses. So even with all of those tanking years, he finished with over a 60% win percentage in his time with San Antonio, which is insane. And obviously an extensive coaching tree on top of that. Matt, what was your reaction to Popp's retirement announcement and then the subsequent announcement about the Spurs hiring Mitch Johnson, who'd been his interim as the permanent full-time head coach of the Spurs?
Instant reaction was kind of just thinking about like those Spurs teams. Those are like,
Yeah.
I feel like I always have different teams every year that I like. So the Spurs were
Matt has a
definitely
lot
one of
of
them.
teams.
I have like 10 teams. Yeah, it's kind of overwhelming. So yeah, the Spurs are definitely one of the teams I really loved. I think like a lot of people. So I thought about that team a lot, kind of what that team meant to me. I feel like that team really like got me into not like into basketball, but into the specifics and like all of the different ways that you can play basketball.
Yeah.
So that team, the 2014 team, but so that was my instant reaction. My secondary reaction, which was like an hour later, was wow, I can't believe they already hired somebody.
Yeah, were you
That
surprised
was
that they
kind
didn't
of
go through a
surprising.
more extensive search for like that's a big franchise and they're not necessarily, a rebuilding team right now. They've got their Wemby. They are, semi-tanking sometimes to like try and get good pieces around him, but they traded for Fox. Wemby's already been saying since his rookie year, like he's ready to win now, all of this stuff. So I personally was a bit surprised about it, but like my reaction to that was like, oh, I guess like Mitch Johnson had to be like the guy who was being groomed to take over for a while now.
Yeah, that was a little surprise. I mean, I feel like they've had so many coaches kind of where you're like, oh, okay, that's who's going to be next, or oh, this is going to be assistant, and then it's kind of like Mitch. Maybe I'm just not tapped in with like what's going on with the Spurs.
I mean, they're in a
But
very secretive organization, so I don't
they
think
are.
any of us are.
Yeah. But yeah, it was definitely a little surprising for me. I mean, you're right. Like you think about the players that they have, the moves that they can make going forward. Like if they wanted to, they could be like, hey, we're gonna get Giannis. Like we have a pretty good trade package. So they can take any amount of swings, they can do whatever they wanted to do. I was wondering if they were gonna be one of these, like, hey, we're gonna go look at former coach Michael Malone or Taylor Jenkins or one of these, like I guess more well-known coaches. So that was surprising.
Or even look at it, because it seems like they didn't do a coaching search. Most of the time, like for example, the Phoenix Suns announced like we're doing a coaching search like right now. We know Will and I did a whole series on the very highly publicized coaching search that the Los Angeles Lakers had last year, for example. And not every team is like that, but it was also clear that I think there were 5 different teams that were in the midst of coaching searches at the same time. And we were tracking all of those different things, like which coaches had, interviewed where and this, that, who was rumored to be off the short lists already, et cetera, et cetera. So I was kind of surprised at this, but it's very Spursian to just be like, zag. And promote internally and all of that too. A couple of other notes here. The Memphis Grizzlies hired Tomas Isalo, their interim head coach, to be the full-time head coach as well. He's known as the pick and roll maestro, and known pretty widely for his work as the head coach with Paris Basketball. That's a professional club in France. And apparently Ja really likes him too. So he was an assistant coach with the Grizzlies. I was hired just last summer. So he's been with the team just for this year, and took over as interim when the Grizzlies fired Taylor Jenkins. And that was Will and I talked about a pretty weird scenario as well, because they fired, along with their head coach, a couple of the other assistants, but they kept on Tuomas, and he was promoted to the head coach position. So that was also surprising, because it doesn't sound like they had a search either. He was just interim, and then he was hired. So that's, two more head coach jobs that are off the board, in addition to Doug Christie getting hired with Sacramento, which I don't know if we even covered on the show. It happened, I think, sometime just in this last week, where the new GM basically gave Doug Christie his blessing in that sense. Are you surprised at all that like all of these franchises seem to be giving not just an assistant coach, but an internal assistant coach the chance to, be promoted to head coach and try to do something new, as opposed to looking for more veteran head coach experience?
Sort of depends on the team, I guess. Like Grizzlies, not really. It seems like their front office really liked their current coach now. Like Kings were really hard to read. I just had no idea what they were going to do at all, because they didn't have a GM, right? So I was like, all right, they're going to swing big and bring in the GM. And as the GM, there was like Vlade rumors, like there is all types of stuff with them. So that one was hard to read, but simply because I just I don't think anybody knew what direction they were going to go. That really. So is it a trend? I mean, maybe at a certain point, it's like kind of like, it's like players, you know what I mean? Like you're going to eventually, these coaches are going to circle around and they're going to run out of stops, or teams are going to be, there's going to be a new crop of coaches that are going to come out. And you might be seeing that now with players. Like think about how many of the veteran players are on the outside watching the playoffs. Like there are a lot of these veteran stars. It just happens. Like it could be a changing of the guard. It's hard to say. And it all just comes down to what the situation is, who's in charge, who's calling shots. But I don't know if it's a trend, but it's interesting that you pointed out.
Yeah. It's interesting because, Popp obviously retires, Michael Malone gets fired, and Eric Spoelstra is still holding on to his job with the Heat after a pretty big extension that they gave him last year. Those were the three most longest tenured head coaches in the NBA. People aren't long for the job of head coach in the NBA. Those were outliers, right? And the fourth longest tenured was Taylor Jenkins, who got fired this year. So this actually feels like reversion to the mean, perhaps. Obviously, there are other examples with assistants who got chances from outside of the organization, like when Jordi Fernandez, former assistant with the Sacramento Kings, got his head coaching gig with the Brooklyn Nets, and Kenny Atkinson, likely, unless they've already announced it, coach of the year with the Cleveland Cavaliers. That's pretty big. And then the most outsider of outsiders in JJ Redick getting hired to be the head coach of the Los Angeles Lakers, who, by the way, they put out a statement that he is not going to be fired, or not a statement, but they put out rumors to their people, like, tell the media JJ's fine.
Yeah.
We have to say that because everybody in the Lakers fan base wants him fired, like they always do.
Every year.
The other part of it is owners are cheap and don't want to pay super senior coaches the money that super senior coaches tend to command. But I'm really curious about what direction an organization like the Phoenix Suns, which you mentioned before, goes, because they are, I don't know that they're going to be out of win now mode, even if they pivot off of Kevin Durant and or Bradley Beal anyway. So I'm not sure that they would necessarily want to go with somebody new, but people in Suns world seem to think otherwise to some extent. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting trend, and maybe it's not something new, but something that is disrupting, like I said, the exception to the rule in some of these really long tenured head coaches, not only staying with their franchises, but kind of getting hired elsewhere. And Doc Rivers obviously lives on as the exception to that as well. For those of you who made it this far, thank you so much. Please remember to hit the like button, and hit subscribe, hit the notification bell, and always remember that winning is fun and losing